waiting for the lights. When the lights come on, that means the speakers are live. Okay. Could everyone please find their seats? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to begin this evening's board meeting. The school board meeting of September 8th, 2021 is now called to order. The time is 6:19. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest personal potential and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. This evening's agenda includes moment of silence, pledge of allegiance, reading of resolutions, acknowledgements, public comments, consent action items, which include 2 items under board office, 8 items under academic services, which 2 are good cause. Dr. Savage, please provide an explanation for these 2 items.
Yes, Madam Chair. Item H7, the approval of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Lee County Board of County Commissioners and the Lee County Solid Waste Division. This item was added as good cause because this is the last meeting before the Lee County Board of County Commissioners approves their final budget on September 21st, and their process requires our board to approve agreements prior to bringing items to their board. The second item is item H8, an approval to waive the requirement for CPR, AED, first aid for casual employees working in fee-based programs. This item was added for good cause to allow for an additional 60 days for our staff to train the significant number of these employees to meet that excellent requirement to ensure that even more employees have all those life-saving skills.
Thank you. As presiding officer, I find there is good cause to add this item to the agenda. 3 items under business services, 1 item under human services, and 1 item under operations, and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam Chair, there's just one thing. Yesterday, the board took a consensus to hold off on reading of resolutions until such time as the board can discuss that further. So perhaps you may entertain a motion to amend the adoption of the agenda to remove the resolution.
Is that going forward? Saying today. This was approved. This resolution was approved at the last meeting. So
actually, when I'm looking at the actual agenda itself, there is no resolution. So we don't need to amend it. We'll just revise and say that, because you did say it in the script that there was a reading of resolutions, but there actually is not one on the agenda. So it's fine, Madam Chair.
Okay, so may I ask then, before we take a motion, before we take a motion to adopt the agenda, I have a student here to read what was approved at our last board meeting, the resolution. So
yes, that's the one that was approved at the last meeting.
So she's allowed to read that. Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarification. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as printed.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. And a second, please.
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Giovanelli. And please record your vote.
Is there discussion? Okay.
Sorry, I know you're waiting on me. Ms. Thomas, I cannot. Carries? Thank you so much. Okay, 7-0, motion carries. Ms. Morgan will lead us with a moment of silence, after which Ms. Vaughn will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Morgan, please lead us in a moment of silence. Would everybody stand?
Please bow your heads. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Please welcome Sophia Dupree-Run, our student representative this evening from the School Board Student Advisory Committee. Sophia is a freshman at Cape Coral High School, where she is a member of the student government, a participant of Key Club, and a contributor of Model Nations, an educational simulation where students can learn about diplomacy, international relations, and the United Nations. One thing that Sophia is most proud of is being a Jack Kent Cooke Foundation Young Scholar. Please welcome Sophia. Thank you, Sophia. And if you will read that, and we're tag teaming, she's going to read that, and then she's doing the character word.
Okay.
And welcome to Mom.
Yes. Resolution. Whereas Congress passed Public Law 100-402 in 1988, which amended Public Law 90-498, which changed National Hispanic Heritage Week to National Hispanic Heritage Month. And whereas President Ronald Reagan authorized an annual proclamation designating the 30-day period of September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month. And whereas we recognize the more than 60 million Hispanic Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America, who have made outstanding contributions to our nation. And whereas the rich cultural traditions of the Hispanic American community have made a remarkable impact on American society and enriched our culture and society. And whereas Hispanic Americans embody the American values and devotion to faith, family, and hard work. And whereas Hispanic Americans have made countless contributions to the prosperity of our nation as leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and members of our armed forces. And whereas the Hispanic American community has left an indelible mark on our government, culture, and economy. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Lee County, Florida, hereby proclaims the 30-day period of September 15th through October 15th, 2021 as National Hispanic Heritage Month, Esperanza, of celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope, adopted at a regular meeting of the School Board of Lee County, Florida, this 8th of September, 2021.
Thank you, Sophia. And next we have the... And next we have the character word for September. I apologize, honey. Okay, we'll read this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The character word for September is acceptance. Acceptance is the recognition of the diversity of others, their opinions, practices, and culture with favorable reception. Strength lies in differences, not similarities. Stephen Covey. The design you see displayed on the screen was created by Gracie Gall, an 11th grade student at Estero High School. And the acknowledgements for the month of September are National Payroll Week, which is from September 7th to 11th, 2021, Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, which is September 17th, 2021, and Do the Right Thing Month, September 1st to the 31st, 2021.
Great. Thank you so much, Sophia. And we thank you very much for being here and appreciate it. She is going to be leaving us now, but we so appreciate you coming in and doing this for us. So thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Ms. Pre-Bruno, please address the item of public comment.
Thank you and good evening, Madam Chair. School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a public comment card, please put it in the basket provided at the back of the room. If you need a public comment card, they are provided by our staff located in the hallway outside of the boardroom. The rules concerning public comment are posted in the back and will be made from the microphone in the back. Please be advised that the board will not respond during public comment to remarks made by speakers. Speakers and those attending the meeting are expected to act in a respectful manner. The purpose of public comment is to provide feedback on school district issues. Personal attacks on individuals or abusive language are prohibited. In addition, clapping, hissing, and booing, unreasonably loud and/or offensive language, swearing, cursing, or a display of temper are prohibited. Speakers may not address board members by name, and personal attacks against individual board members, the board as a whole, the superintendent, or district staff are prohibited. Speakers who fail to follow proper decorum in the chambers will be ruled out of order. Any speaker continuing with such remarks will be required to relinquish the microphone per Board Policy 1.11 and may be removed from the chambers. There will be one warning, and we ask that you govern yourself accordingly. We will take recesses as necessary if there is not decorum in the chambers. Please remember that it is unlawful and a second-degree misdemeanor to knowingly disrupt or interfere with a school board meeting. Per Board Policy 1.11, the time per speaker is 3 minutes if there are 20, 2 minutes if there are 30, and 1 minute if there are 31 or more. The maximum time allotted for public comment is 1 hour, 60 speakers. You will find a countdown on the big screen in the front of the room. Once your time has elapsed, the microphone will automatically shut off. We encourage you to address the board as a whole versus individual board members as they act as a collective board. Please state your name prior to making your comment. I will call your names 5 speakers at a time. Please follow the staff's direction when lining up. Madam Chair, we have 19 speakers this evening.
Thank you. Please make sure you have completed a public comment card if you intend to provide public comment. The card is a public record identifying those who speak and providing contact information to staff for follow-up. The cards are located with the staff in the hallway. In addition, if there is not decorum during this meeting, I will call for a 5-minute recess. We will continue to recess this meeting as needed, increasing 5 minutes each time. Members of the dais, when a recess is called, I ask that you leave the chambers. Of course, it goes without saying that during the recess, board members will not discuss any matters that is pending on the agenda or will come before this body to avoid any sunshine violation. I will reiterate what Ms. Dupree-Bruno just said, and that it is unlawful and a second-degree misdemeanor to knowingly disrupt or interfere with a school board meeting. Before calling on the card request, is there anyone who wishes to address the board that did not fill out a comment card on the right side? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone on the left side that would care to? No? Okay. Mr. Bruno, please proceed with public comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Will the following individuals please line up? Cindy Bonnier, Dr. Janelle Christensen, Denise Nystrom, Susan, Keith Olson.
I thought we had 3 minutes. So we only have 19 speakers. Is that correct?
Yes, it's 3 minutes.
Thank you. So my name is Cindy Banier, and I stand here today as a parent of 2 small children in our school district and 1 child who has a history of severe health problems and immune issues. None of my children are eligible for the vaccine. There are lots of people in our district that are extremely worried about the health of their children, especially after we've seen the skyrocketing numbers of COVID cases in the first 4 weeks of this school district surpassed the entire 2020-2021 school year. This has been an incredibly heated debate, and it's actually not supposed to be a political debate, because if we follow the science, we know the answer. For the health and safety of our children and our students and our staff and our teachers, I applaud this school board and our superintendent for enforcing a mask mandate and for standing strong when trying to be strong-armed by the governor. I know that there are a lot of people, in fact, the majority of not only parents, but people in this district stand in solidarity with you in your decision to enforce a mask mandate. And as an actual parent in this school district who understands respect and is not here to cause a spectacle or to shout, I just want to say thank you, because it's the right thing to do. I also know that this is important for our workforce, because we need to have the schools function, and you are doing the right thing for the staff as well. I think that I speak for everyone, even the folks who are sitting here waving their thumbs or shouting in my face as I walked in today.
Ms. Banier, please address us.
That I think that no one wants to be responsible for the death of a child or a staff member. And I know that no one on the school board or the staff of the school district wants that burden. And I think that the decision to continue the mask mandate is the right one. I encourage you to stay strong in that and do what is right and is advocated for by the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics, because that is the right thing to do. I appreciate your work, and I hope that we can continue to have a spirited debate and that you listen to the voices of the majority and the actual parents in this school district. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Janelle Christensen. I'm not a medical doctor. I have a doctorate in medical anthropology and a master's in global public health. And more importantly, though, is I am a mother of 2 children enrolled in Lee County Public Schools. Kindergarten and 2nd grade, which means that they're too young to receive vaccinations, which are the best way to prevent the spread of COVID-19 or many other illnesses. The next best thing is the wearing of masks. That can reduce the transmission of the illness from between 70 and 79%. If we can reduce the transmission or keep one vulnerable child from getting sick, then it is worth it. I stand behind your decision to have children be wearing masks in schools. I thank you for making the right decision to protect my children and to help my children do a better job of helping their neighbors.
Will the following individuals please line up? Allie Locke, Michael Berrio, Melissa, Dr. Jennifer Darling, Jameson Painter.
Denise Nystrom, insurrectionist according to a particular board member. Insurrectionist according to a particular board member. The question asked yesterday about whether an 8-year labor relations attorney is qualified to be a chief officer of human resources made 0 sense. As a chief human resource executive, it was the labor relations attorney that I sought information from when I had questions about personnel. The only reason for posing this question would be to create confusion and make people think that in some way the superintendent's choice for HR is not qualified, which he clearly is. Many people see 2 board members talking incessantly during board meetings. It's obvious even though they are talking through their masks. I am asking them to please stop talking because it is less than transparent and very noticeable. A board member said teachers are fleeing the district. Well, you are right about that. There are tons of them that reach out to us on a daily basis, and they hate this district, and they are afraid to speak up for fear of being fired. I sent you a video clip today, and on that video clip, it showed the person that was causing altercations outside on August 30th. You know who she is, and I'm asking you what you are going to do about her. Are you removing her from the EDAC committee? Is she allowed to come into board meetings? She clearly was the instigator outside, and so there needs to be consequences. The restrictions that we are encountering when we come through the door is overkill. We do not owe you an apology. You owe us an apology. We have been name-called by you far too long. And by the way, I got my dose of ivermectin today. I'm sure I'll be fine.
My name is Keith Olson.
And just one second, I just want to, I'm sorry, sir. I just want to remind all speakers to please stay on the other side of the stanchion. We don't want anyone behind the speaker. Thank you very much.
My name is Keith Olson. I am a resident of Lee County, and I am a grandparent of one student in one of your schools. I wasn't surprised at all that you went back to your stubborn must-be masked mandate. I was disgusted with some of the rationale, however. In your letter to Commissioner Corcoran, you stated the face covering guidelines are necessary, reasonable, and narrowly tailored to address the health crisis in our local community. The guidelines are essential to keeping schools open and operational, unquote. Mask mandating is neither necessary nor reasonable. Mask wearing in many cases is very reasonable. Mandating is not. Many studies that have been presented to you indicated that masking children is useless in lessening COVID transmission. They have also indicated strongly that they are damaging to children. The younger the child, the more damaging. They show that masking children does psychological, social, educational, and medical damage to children, and yet you disregard that. Your guidelines are not narrowly tailored, as you stated in your comment. They cover all students, K through 12. That is not narrow tailoring. They do not cover or depend upon individual conditions. In fact, your decision harms my grandson who's in first grade. He struggles with language acquisition. He struggles with social development. He struggles with emotional control. Hiding his face and others' faces in his classroom make it virtually impossible for him to mature in a normal, healthy way. Your rigid masking mandate is irrelevant for keeping schools open and operational. They do not need that kind of extreme, rigid, top-down control.
I'm Susan. Is this on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, got it. Okay, I just want to ask how your drinks are, because I don't understand what your point is in not allowing us to bring in our own water when kids are discouraged from drinking from the school fountain. I was wanded twice out there. What do you think I've got on me? This is all new, and it's to try to just prove some kind of a demented point. For any board member to make a unilateral, secret decision without public or any discussion and ignoring a specific request to do so under the darkness of night is a new low for this board. You should be proud, because that seems to be what you aspire to be. You represent nothing more than a Gestapo with how kids are being treated right now. Children following our governor's opt-out have been put into in-school suspension and told they can't talk to one another. What in the world is that about? My son has a medical exemption in place and honored and is now afraid to take his mask off for fear of not fitting in with the others, which is nothing more than a psychological game being played. And to listen to a board member's interview on Beach Radio over the weekend was appalling. Our friend Tasha was referenced as a physician who spoke supporting you last week. Our friend, some connection there. This board member sat within a few feet of the other hosts, maskless, sharing how she lets her daughter drink at home, says she's gotten over 200 emails from parents for supporting masking the kids. Now, where were those parents a few weeks ago when you voted not to enforce a mandate? This is garbage, and her name rhymes with paprika.
Just a reminder about personal attacks, please.
Good afternoon. Is the mic on?
Yes, sir.
Barely. Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Barrio. I have 2 students that are attending your public school. They are greatly being affected, as you all may know, because I've sent all of you an email, from the mask mandate that you guys have instilled. My oldest son, he's received 2 referrals, one of them inside of PE, and then the other one before he could even enter the school. So what rules is he breaking to receive referrals? Actually, he's received 3 referrals. The other one was also before he could enter the school. We have photo documentation of kids riding the bus with no mask, but yet they segregate my child at the end of the day, and they have all the kids wait off of the bus, and then they place my child on the bus, who is maskless, and then put all the other kids on the bus, humiliating him. Where is their rights? You guys say you give out referrals based on student rights and the student code of conduct, but where are the student rights in the student code of conduct? Where is their opinion to express divergent opinion? Where are their rights to show that they have a difference of political opinion? Why is the principal of my son's school going out in front of me to go get my son out of PE and write him a referral for not wearing a mask and then lie to my son that he was not in PE at that time? We all know the only one that knows the truth is my son. Why are we shutting down and why are we locking these kids up? Over 100,000, on the Department of Health, it states 100,000 kids have gotten COVID and there is a 0.3% death rate. Where is that? More kids are being killed in accidents. Are we going to stop giving the kids plastic silverware, letting them do PE? They could be killed that way. Why are the principals telling me and the teachers telling me that they are afraid to lose their jobs because of the mandate that you guys placed? They do not agree with what you say. Why is that? I'm coming here with questions for you. I looked at the petition that the doctors signed, and not all of them are qualified to be signing that document.
Will the following individuals please line up? Candy, Joanne Clancy, Nema DeRosette, Crystal DiVigelli, Dawn Armstrong.
My name is Allie Locke, and I am a teacher in the school district, and I am an actual parent of 2 school-age children in the Lee County School District. I'm here speaking for the teachers, the administrators, the parents, and the students who either feel like they don't have a voice or feel like they can't have a voice in fear of retaliation. I have people message me and come to me every single day. Tons of messages after board meetings to let me know that they agree with me, but they're scared to speak out. And let me just say, because it was stated last school board meeting that no teacher spoke out against the mask mandate. Well, I'm one. Even if I'm the only one, I'm going to stand here and speak out against it. And if I do end up losing my job, I know God will take care of me. But I am at a crossroads because this mandate is against all of my core beliefs. I do not agree with masking my children. I do not agree with masking my students, but I also have to stand there and serve them because I feel a responsibility. I signed a contract every year for the past 11 years to serve my students, and now my children have been in school for the past 4 years. I feel a duty to serve them, but I'm almost to that point where I feel that I cannot. I've never said it publicly, but I'm a PCT in the district. So I coach teachers as well. I have a lot of conversations with teachers that are afraid at the direction our district is moving in. So I hope that you all hear that. If you don't hear it from the parents, you can hear it from me, a teacher that gets to talk to all kinds of teachers all the time. I wish I could adequately describe how difficult it is to teach in a mask and how difficult it is for our students, my monolingual students, my ESOL students whose first language is not English, so they have language acquisition problems, and our students that are low in general, that have a hard time reading. They really need to see our mouths. You can't hear us when we're speaking. You can't see our mouths to make out what we're saying. But you're not in schools to see that. So I'm telling you from firsthand experience, it's incredibly difficult and near impossible for our kids to actually learn right now. Not only that, my last point, I would really like for the board to investigate and make a difference. Why are kids wearing masks at PE and at recess?
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm a mother of 4, trained special education teacher. I think the reason why we don't have as big a turnout is because I think in a way we kind of feel defeated because we get blocked when well, here's an example. You know, I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about children and well-being and my own children, as I spoke out the last time. But I'm also passionate about facts. And I'm on Facebook and I'll post something about a doctor in the Pennsbury School District that spoke at a board meeting where all the people there could clap. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay, they can all clap. And she very eloquently talked about, and she was very qualified, she talked about all the reasons why masks were not necessary and all the things that it wasn't necessary, it was useless. And not only that, it was damaging. And people were allowed to clap. And I posted that a few times on the board's Facebook page I didn't say anything, I just wanted to just repeat this, you know, show this YouTube, and then I got blocked. You know, and then a few months ago, I got blocked from the school district Facebook page because I questioned some of the things. Would someone come up and say, oh, vaccines are great, you know, get your vaccine. And I would say, well, wait. And I would post a few things, and I would question, blocked. So I think that's what's frustrating. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is why I'm frustrated. Can't we just all get the information? We all want to trust. We want to trust. And we want to get all the information that we can get. And we don't have transparency. It's hard for us as parents to trust the board, to trust our doctors, because it just seems to be one way and no other. And then I'm hearing that these poor parents, and especially being a trained special ed teacher, can't get a medical exemption from their doctors in Lee County. I mean, I don't get that. Like, if you're going to say you can get a medical exemption, and these poor kids that aren't going to be able to, really function in a mask. Well, no, actually, I think all children should not in a mask, but the ones especially that have issues. And if they're not giving these medical exemptions, then, what do you do? So I'm also concerned because last week there was a boy that came in and said his dear friend got the vaccine, and the next day he was in the hospital fighting for his life. Did I see these news outlets talk about that? No, they came on and said I was disinformation. And also they didn't talk about the people that that came in with at no point did they acknowledge anyone. They just wanted to disparage everybody. So I want to know what the
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jennifer Darling. Thank you for calling me doctor this time. I do appreciate that because last time only the doctors that were on the other side of this debate were called doctor. I am an actual parent of a Lee County student. I've had nonstop migraines since I spoke here 2 weeks ago. I did not move here to deal with more tyranny, more science denying, and more hypocritical leftists. I cannot leave the house without running into others that have moved here for the same reasons. So this is an elected privilege, we will call this, that you have. Read the room. We are not the outnumbered ones here, but I will continue to fight. The state of Oregon is heavily vaccinated and masked. They just broke their case record. Meanwhile, look at Sweden and Denmark. Or I would really like to know, do you guys only read things that align with your personal bias? Because it really seems that way. And like, I'm fresh off the boat here. I'm in shock. I would like to know on what authority you think you can override physician recommendations regarding mask exemptions. Time and time again, I am hearing that parents have 1 to 2 multiple physicians signing off on a mask exemption, but the school decides that they can override that. That is illegal. That is practicing medicine without a license. Again, I'll ask, if quarantined kids are allowed to use Google Classroom, why aren't you allowing those that cannot or won't wear a mask? This is coercion and this is discrimination, and I would really appreciate an answer on this, because simply telling the people that can't or won't mask that they have to unenroll and homeschool for 30 days is discrimination, and I don't know how you people sleep at night. Lastly, I really enjoyed watching video footage of an unmasked board member sitting within 6 feet of other unmasked people during an interview over this weekend. She also encouraged underage drinking. Rules for thee, but not for me, and it is so troublesome that these are the kind of attitudes that are in charge of my son's education. So I'll read part of my speech from last time now because I wrote a short one for tonight. So I just would like to go on the record that I do have a valid medical exemption, and this is probably something that doesn't cross most people's minds. I am a rape survivor, and feeling something across my face triggers off my PTSD. My PTSD doctor wrote me a note. Do you want to know when I was raped? I was raped in high school. This is not an uncommon thing. There are other girls, possibly even boys, not to be sexist, walking around your school that are having panic attacks because they are feeling smothered again. Think about this. This is not just crazy Trump supporters just making a fuss over anything. I have a doctor's note, and people laugh at me and call me insane just outside because I cannot wear a mask.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Honey, you can go ahead and speak. Just say your name and. Am I allowed to read what he wrote on behalf of him?
Unfortunately, we can't yield time. However, However,
He literally wrote it.
Mr. Pre-Bruno, can you?
however, Mom, go ahead. Mom, go ahead.
Can you please go ahead? Dr. Darling, go ahead and read it.
Okay, so I'm reading what my son wrote. He said, my name
And your
is
son's,
Jameson.
yeah, your son's name? Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Jameson. We just moved here from Michigan. School was closed there for 15 months. It was really nice to be back to normal at school here before I was kicked out. A lot of people that wear masks still get sick. It has been overstated how much they work. Mask wearing should be a personal decision. It is hard for me to breathe with a mask on.
Thank you for reading that for
Thank
him. Okay, please, no clapping.
Next speaker, please.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that for him. And you can adjust the mic if you need to, so everybody's not having to bend down.
Well, that's pretty good and short. Right side. My name's Candy Natico. I'm not really a confrontational person, but when it comes to my kids, it's kind of like a switch. So I wondered what really could I possibly say to you that hasn't already been said by others, but everything has continued to fall on deaf ears, it seems. The fact remains that you are violating our Parents' Bill of Rights, and you're violating our children. What you're doing is criminal. The glaringly obvious fact remains no one has any idea what the long-term side effects, be it physical, emotional, psychological, developmental, will be from masking these kids all day long. No one should be able to force that unknown risk on someone else's child. Where there is risk, there must be choice. My perfectly healthy middle schooler started getting sick last year after being forced to mask up. She got strep throat 4 times from January to June. Have any of you been to that middle school and seen the conditions the kids are forced to be in? If not, you should. It's vile for you to sit up there in your air-conditioned building making rules for kids when you don't even consider the environment that they're in. The ventilation systems are terrible. They don't have windows, not that they're even allowed to open them anyway because, you know, safety. They can't control the AC. It's stuffy, hot, sweaty, and miserable. It's not okay. But perhaps I'll start forwarding her medical bills to LCSD when her throat infections start up again. Seems fair if you're going to take away my ability to parent my child in the means that keeps her healthy. Parents should have the right whether they want to subject their kids to this mask nonsense, especially since the board has worked so well with Lee Health and its employees to make obtaining a legitimate mask exemption nearly impossible. How do I know this? Because my son desperately needs one to be able to return to the school he loves and has attended since kindergarten. My son has 2 medical conditions that prevent him from being able to wear a mask, but his doctors are either afraid to sign an exemption or not allowed to because of their employer. Imagine being a doctor and being afraid to do what you can to help a child because you're afraid of the professional blowback and ridicule you'll get. Imagine being a doctor and being told you can't sign them or risk your job. That's disgusting. And what this school board is doing is disgusting. And I want you to know that you will hear our voices when it comes time to vote because we will vote you out.
My name is Joanne Clancy, and I am not a parent of any child in the Lee County School District. And guess what? They're all of our children. This is happening across the country. And I really felt the need to just come and get it on record here that I was in my pool over the holiday weekend and had 2 kids in there tell me that their principal told them on a morning announcement that all of the hallways are one way because all of the COVID breath will go in one direction. I have a degree in exercise science. I do know that these masks are dangerous, physically, mentally, and emotionally, for all of these children who belong to all of us. As a community, it takes a village. And I really found it ironic that you had up on the big screens how accepting you guys are here. But you don't accept a single person who doesn't fall in line with exactly what you tell them all to do. Maybe you think diversity is only about skin color? Language? What about intellectual diversity? What about saying, hey, parents who think differently than we do and have scientific data to back up your side of the argument? How about we all live together and accept each other?
I'm Nina Dorosset. In response to the current district's policy, I'm very confused. I thought that this is a Lee County Board of Education and not the Lee County Health Department. However, it seems as if you've decided to go beyond the Department of Health recommendations and mandate a medical device on our children. Even though the FDA stated that the use of masks has not been proven for antiviral infection. As a matter of fact, it says on the box that it does not prevent the spread of disease or infection. By placing this device on our children, you are applying what is considered a medical device. And if you're going to act in this capacity, you are required to obtain informed consent. According to the FDA, informed consent means that you need to provide the understanding in nature for procedure or device, understand the risk and benefits, offer reasonable alternatives, and understand the risk and benefits of these alternatives. It also states that consent cannot be obtained under coercion, meaning no undue punishment or reward, which when I was speaking with one of my children's schools, I was told that my children would be placed in detention or then changed to not being allowed on school grounds. In all of my children's registration information, I did not see anything that provided me with any risk or benefits or side effects of long-term mask wearing for my children, wearing a mask for 7 to 8 hours a day. I wasn't given other options for my children, nor did I see anything asking for my permission for you to apply a medical device. Not only that, but telling my child that they cannot obtain a free and appropriate in-person education unless they comply is a form of coercion. So basically, you have not met the criteria for informed consent at all, based on providing us not providing us with any risk or benefits. I understand that it's difficult to make decisions when you're dealing with emotions on both sides of the topic, but your job is not to make medical decisions, especially when the health department has only issued recommendations. You're the Board of Education. Your focus needs to be on educating our students and leave the health decisions to us parents and our doctors. This is my son's mask from one day of wearing it. He comes home with this thing dirty and disgusting every day. This is not safe. This is bacteria that he is breathing in every day. He is asthmatic, and this is not okay. He is forced to wear a mask outside at recess, outside at PE, in 99-degree weather. That is unacceptable. That is gross negligence on the behalf of the school district. We went from 2 weeks to flatten the curve to if we get 50% of vaccinated, we'll achieve herd immunity. Now we're pushing 2 years of this nonsense. Wear 2 masks, wear 3 masks, wear goggles, wear a hazmat suit. None of this stuff is scientifically proven that's going to prevent the spread of COVID. Children should not be...
Thank you, ma'am. Will the following individuals please line up? Liz C., Jason Woodbury, Tara Jenner, Dina Perry.
Christine DiVigili. So sorry I have all this stuff today, but now I have to protect my rights and carry a recording device anytime I come in here because I'm treated like a criminal. So I'd like to know a few things today, not just going to, hold on. Give me a second, there we go. I would like to know, number one, who put the agenda items H1 through H4 on the agenda? Who pulled them from the agenda? Who specifically decided to submit item H4 lump sum grant totaling over $59 million for, and I quote, "This includes helping school districts and other LEA safely reopen schools, ... I want to know, why do you need $59 million to reopen schools when our schools never closed in the first place? Tell me that, please. Why on earth is that on the agenda for tonight? My next question is, I'd like to know why a certain district board member spoke on public radio on behalf of the board and the superintendent as if she was the acting chair, or the vice chair even, speaking on behalf of all of you sitting up there right now. I also want to know why that same board member said publicly that it is perfectly legal to allow her underage children to drink alcohol at her home, but it is not legal to allow someone else's underage children to drink alcohol in her home. Seeing as this particular board member was speaking on behalf of the school district of Lee County, I would like to know, does the board share this position on underage drinking? Answer me that, please. I'd also like to know why my question was asked during the workshop about kids being suspended, and why it was not answered, because it was my daughter they were talking about. My daughter was threatened with suspension. And I'd like to know why it wasn't answered, and why I was sent some citizens, whatever, to answer that question for you. I asked you, Superintendent, a very specific question, and I want to know why my child is being threatened with suspension when every teacher has said how absolutely polite she is, what a wonderful child she is, what a wonderful student she is, yet she is facing a 4-day suspension for gross insubordination. This is unacceptable. You are trampling over our rights, and we will not stand for that. I will not stand for that. It is my job to protect her. Please, do your job. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm a taxpayer. That's all you need to know right now. You've already called my name. But let's talk about a few things. First, let's have an education moment. One of the board members talked about the previous board breaking the law. I was on the previous board. We didn't break the law. Wrong, Ms. Patrica, wrong. What we did was opted out of a federal grant, Common Core, which we've already got rid of. It's gone. But that's all we did. We stood up for the parents' rights. All these people in here. That's what that board did. We filled this room more than what you guys had 2 meetings ago. And we didn't have that chaos. You know why? Because we respected the parents. Even the ones that didn't agree with us. Even you, Ms. Patrica, when you was a parent. We still respected you. But you don't show that same respect to these parents. But let's go ahead and answer another question tonight, since we're on a roll on this one. You guys were told yesterday, or they was asked, about any kids that's ever been sent home. And Dr. Savage said, no, none that I've heard of. Well, Dr. Savage, that was a blatant lie. And I'll call it right now. And I have the proof on my phone. And I've sent it to the board members. The light to the board. I called you on September 1st at 9:48 a.m. and told you my son was sent home because he didn't want to wear a mask. You never called. Not one bit. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a parent, and I deserve the respect. At least pick up the phone and call me. See what's going on. All I asked was to work it out somehow and try to get something resolved. But you didn't want to. And I can tell you this much. The last time a superintendent acted like that, which right now I'm missing Jim Browder quite a bit, and I know a lot of people just hit the ground when I said that. But I do know this much. The last time I didn't get along with the superintendent, he ended up in Alaska. I hope you have a winter coat, because that's where you'll be going next.
So I'm just going to remind everybody, I'm sorry, I have to. Please be careful with personal attacks. If there are any other personal attacks, we're out of order.
Can,
Can I go? Okay. Hi. I'm Liz. I've gotten up here before and spoken, and I realize after doing that, not a lot gets accomplished because no matter what we say or what we do, kind of nothing really changes. I came here tonight mostly because I needed to get something off of my chest to certain board members up there. I don't know when it was stated, but the confusion of, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're comparing us to, people that abuse children, when we cried out that this was child abuse. I would just like to say and go on record, I worked for the Department of Children and Families for 5 years. I was a caseworker who took children out of abusive households and put them into safer environments. I also have a double master's in clinical psychology and child counseling. I would just like to remind you all that the definition of abuse basically is an abuse of power and control over the innocent and those that cannot speak up for themselves. So while it may be confusing to you that we see you that way, make no mistake, what you are doing is using your power over these children, over parents, with the exception of one of you up there who I actually think cares. You are using your power and you are using your control over the innocent, and the innocent are our children. That is the first point I'd like to make. The second point I would like to make, for all of us sitting in a mask out here, I am also a personal trainer and a fitness nutrition specialist. Where in any of the school districts, or I'm sorry, any of the classrooms, are we talking about health? Where are we talking about how to properly give the proper nutrition, the proper vitamins, diet and exercise? Do we hold a class on that, or are we just going to strap a mask across our face and call us healthy? I encourage you all up there on the board to come up with something. Come up with something that makes sense. Educate our children. Educate our children about the proper things to put in their bodies so that they're stronger, healthier. A mask isn't going to solve it all. It's not going to solve it. And if you are confused by why I look at some of you no differently than the parents of the children I had to pull out of their abusive households, while you may not lay a physical hand on these kids, make no mistake, to me, you are no damn different.
Next speaker.
My name is Jason Woodbury. I am a father of 4 children in the Lee School District. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, and I studied microbiology. I also am professionally trained in my profession to do fit testing and have knowledge on respirators and masks. An N95 mask is required to do anything for a virus. It is known and has been known for decades. It is also known that it causes severe harm psychologically, mentally, and emotionally to children. I'll agree with the other speakers who've said that you are abusing our children. I have 2 children that have suffered severely, one who's deaf and who requires lip reading to learn. His grades.
We're going to stop. We're going to stop for a second.
Yeah, we cannot have speaking.
Cannot have speaking or outburst, and this is a warning.
Sorry, Mr. Woodbury, if you would start, please.
He requires lip reading to be able to learn properly because he's deaf, and his teachers are required to wear masks. I have another child who's suffered mentally and emotionally. He has facial tics. He has all kinds of problems because of this. And I'm going to read something from You'll recognize it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, or in this case, a new school board. What a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for the future security. Thank you.
Tonight I identify as Mercy Otis Warren, patriot and founding mother. And I am livid that I had to go through an unlawful search and seizure to get in this building. I had to give up my rights protected by the Fourth Amendment in order to assert my rights under the First Amendment of free speech, the right to be able to peaceably assemble, and to redress my government for grievances. And the reason that I say that I was violated and that my rights under the Fourth Amendment were taken away from me is because this school district has violated its own policy. If one more person quoted to me, well, you have to go through searches to go into the sports stadium or whatever the case may be. They're not a government agency. I don't have a right to go there to redress grievances against them. I do here. And the policy that you violated was your board policy on public comment and public participation in this particular board room. You have the right to make emergency changes, but you haven't followed those policies properly. You haven't notified on your website what emergency circumstances dictated you to change those policies, nor have you specified that they're limited to 90 days until such time as you do a full review and allow public comment of that. And hence, that policy is currently invalid. And the fact that I was able to walk in here yesterday when that policy was theoretically already in place and nobody searched my bag and nobody looked at anything tells me that your application of that policy is arbitrary and capricious and is only being implemented when you're concerned that we might be able to get behind the mic and you're trying to dissuade us from our public comment by putting up blocks and barricades. I have another objection. I'm not allowed to bring in water in here, and yet there's people up on the dais that have liquid. You're telling the school students that they have to bring bottles so that they can fill it up at the water fountain because it's a risk, but you're then telling us that we have to actually drink out of the water fountain. This is absolute insanity. The parents here that have been speaking are talking about the validity of the masks, and while that is something that is valid, the more important thing is you guys do not understand the fact that liberty is the ultimate goal. Liberty is something we must not give up. You're acting as tyrants. The first speaker said, oh, wait a minute, the majority want this. We shouldn't be listening to that minority. Well, guess what? The oath, the job of individuals in public office is to protect the rights of the minority against the will of the majority, and you all have been measured, weighed, and failed.
Thank you. Will LaVon Grant please line up? Please no clapping. LaVon Grant.
My name is Dina, and I'm here to notify the board that we, the parents, are going to assemble a special election under RSA 195:13, and we are going to hold an election, and the popular vote on that overrides your decision. I'm also asking for you, for your public records request. This is a public records request of all legal evidence you have provided me to justify your policy or mandate to make me and or my child wear a mask. I'm assuming you have a weight of evidence showing peer-reviewed clinical trials published in respected medical journals to legally justify your policy or mandate. Because if you don't, you are in violation of Section 242 of the U.S. Code, Title 18, Deprivation of Rights under the Color of Law, which states, whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishments, pains, or penalties on account of such person being an alien or by reason of his color or race than are prescribed for the punishment of citizens, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year, or both. In addition, I assume your legal department has made you aware that while the U.S. Congress has granted vaccine manufacturers legal immunity, you have not been granted the same protections and can and will be sued for any adverse health effects or death resulting from such policies or mandates.
Madam, Ms. Schaefer or Ms. Thomas, do we have her blue card for the public records request? Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. I wasn't going to speak, but there was an incident today with my daughter at school. I'm not going to specify what school because the principal and my husband and I worked it out, and I'm not going to get her in trouble because she's not following your policies. My daughter today was at PE. Her PE is at 12:45, okay? She did not have her water bottle. She had left it in her classroom. While her water bottle was left in the classroom, they're not letting the kids use the water fountain. Now, the PE coach at her school had her go around the track running. My daughter went to the clinic because she felt like she was going to throw up. The clinic lady wanted to tell us that that was a possible COVID case because she couldn't use her common sense. I told her she couldn't figure out her way out of a paper bag. So we ended up talking with the principal. She ended up using her common sense, thank God. And I just want to know, these policies put in place, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? The mask does nothing. And the fact that you keep sending my child home and having me pick her up from the clinic because it's, I don't know, my husband works in AC. I don't know, I think the heat index, what was it, 104? Okay? And she's walking around a track or running around the track without water, without able to use the water fountain. And then I have to come pick her up and I have to either go pay to take her to the doctor or get a COVID test. Is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, really, it's so dumb. So I just want to know how moving forward we're going to be productive, and sending children home and then telling them they need to stay home for 10 days is not productive. Half the time they're not even sick. They're just missing school to miss school. It's ridiculous, and it's wasting my time, and it's taking away from my work because my kid felt nauseous after being outside for 45 minutes at PE or 30 minutes or whatever running the track. I'm now having to go to the school board to educate the clinic nurse while she's beet red. It's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. I'm grateful that I work from home. Other parents don't have that opportunity to just pick up their kid whenever they need to be picked up and then tell their work, hey, I need to take 10 days off. It's ridiculous. This isn't productive. This isn't working. It's just the same thing over and over again. Something needs to change. Literally, it needs to change. That's all.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. And Dr. Savage, well, first of all, I really thank all of you for coming here and sharing your comments and your concerns. We are here to listen to what you do have to say, so I do appreciate that. Dr. Savage, and I wish we, if you don't mind, that there were so many that spoke about outside PE, if we could make sure that we just readdress that, because it's certainly not supposed to be that way.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You're absolutely correct. This is an indoor mask requirement. This is not for outdoors specifically within the strenuous physical PE area or recess. Those are not the areas to do it. The only times where the mask's outdoors is something that folks would consider is when they're in really close proximity for a prolonged period of time and not during heavy exertion. During the outside activities, every intention is to have them spaced out when they're running, things of that nature. Certainly there was never an intention to have students having to wear masks while they're running a track or anything along those lines. That's not at all within the guidance that's provided, but we'll certainly readdress that with school staff in case that is happening in certain areas. We also do understand that some folks are afraid and choose to wear them more often, but during the physical activity, it's simply not part of the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of action items. The documents for action items listed under consent is made available to board members 7 business days prior to the board meeting. We are expected to review all of the materials, and we will have an opportunity to speak with the superintendent with any questions we may have regarding the recommendations. Some of these items have also been briefed or workshopped with the board in advance of appearing on the action agenda. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under unfinished business table items portion of the agenda? Ms. Giovanelli?
I have none.
Thank you. Ms. Patrica?
No, thank you.
Ms. Fisher?
I have none.
Ms. Gittens?
Yes, I1.
Sorry?
I1.
I1, thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
I have none.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan?
I have none.
And I have none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda consent action item with the exception of pulled item I1?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item I1.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. And please record your vote. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. And I'm sorry, you said I1?
Mm-hmm.
I4, you said?
No, I1.
Okay. I wrote down 4, so that's why I was. Dr. Savage, please introduce any administrators in attendance with the new assignment, and then we'll go back to I1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to first recognize Lori Nine, who is moving from Procurement Services Agent to Procurement Services Coordinator. I would also like to recognize Dr. Marcia Burr, who's going from the Early Childhood Learning Services Director at the Early Childhood Learning Services to Elementary School Development, Executive Director, School Development. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Dwayne Alton from Infrastructure Services, Executive Director, Technology Operations to Information Systems, Chief Information Officer.
Thank you. And I'm going to stop for just a few minutes. If you'd like to stay, you're welcome to stay. Other than that, I'm going to give you a few minutes to leave the room. And thank you and congratulations. Okay, we will go ahead and continue. We have one pulled item to address, and I1, Dr. Savage, please read your recommendation for the pulled item.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I1 recommended action approval of the final budget amendment to amend the 2020-2021 annual district budget.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt Dr. Savage's recommendation?
I move we approve the final budget amendment to amend the 2020-2021 annual district budget.
Thank you. And seconded by Ms. Vaughn. Thank you. Okay, discussion, and I'll start with you, Ms. Gittens, because you pulled this.
Yes, for the record, I will eventually vote for this tonight because there are so many financial needs and we have to have a budget to run a school district. However, I pulled it so that I could make the point that I have made for several meetings and several years, that I still am very concerned about our priorities for the capital spending. I've asked for, going on 2 years, for the data regarding the, I think it's called quadruple A, or the K through 8 on Three Oaks, that is in the process of being built. And on the records, it's showing 84 million, and I recall that we spent, I believe, 9 million to purchase steel while it was at a better price. And we were never told whether it's that 84 plus the 9 or 84 minus the 9. And even more concerning to me, and I've asked this and I've never gotten the data from it, but how the growth went from 102% over capacity when they first started this project to 117% over capacity in less than a year. I asked just to see the data. Not that I'm against building any schools, we desperately need them. My concern is the priority and where schools are built. Also, in this budget item, it includes capital projects for technical centers, and I want it on the record saying that it is, to me, unacceptable where a technical school was discussed as long as 3 years ago since I've been on the board, and it has moved from the 5-year plan to the 10-year plan, and now it's scheduled for 2026. And I think that that's unacceptable. I have also asked several times on projects to break it out to show what percentage of that dollar amount is from the half-cent sales tax. And I've been told various answers that it's hard to kind of break it out. I don't think that it's that difficult just to say we're spending 84 million and what portion of that 84 million is from the half-cent sales tax, what percentage is from capital funds, just basic things like that. I will continue to say that I believe our priorities are very skewed. We build for future growth and not current need. And I will continue to say that. But as I said, I will vote for it tonight only because there are so many other items that depend on the working and the processes in this district. But I want it known that it is not acceptable, it's not equitable, and it's not fair.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion regarding this? Ms. Patrica?
May I direct a question through the chair to Ms. Gittens?
Yes.
I'm not following. Which part of the backup material are you talking about, please, so I can follow along?
Well, I believe that I explained. Are you referring to the Three Oaks project?
Three Oaks, quadruple A, the technical college. I'm just not seeing it in the backup materials for this item.
This item is the budget that does include capital projects, does it not?
That's why I'm asking for you to direct me there, because I don't see it. I'm sorry, but I don't see it.
Capital Projects Fund, Capital Projects and Capital Improvements, Section 1011.71. And we discussed it yesterday in our workshop in relationship to this budget.
I'm sorry, what page was that, please? I'm just trying to follow along.
May I ask, what is your question?
There were issues, you raised issues regarding quadruple A and the tech center, and I'm looking in this budget for where those appear, and I didn't at quick glance see it, and I did review it, and I want to make sure I didn't miss something.
If this is the final budget for this year, are you telling me that it does not include any capital improvement dollars? Then I must be very confused. We had a workshop yesterday or a briefing that discussed all of these things. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. But we had a discussion on budget yesterday so that we could finalize it tonight. This was the final budget. If you can show me in there where there is no capital funds and that there's not one penny in this item that is going to refer to the building of these new schools, then fine.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion regarding this item? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote, and this will be a hand vote, or if you will do a voice vote, which would be better. Ms. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Vaughn?
Aye.
Ms. Gittens?
Reluctantly, aye.
So is that an aye?
Yes, I
Thank
said
you, Ms.
aye.
Gittens. Ms. Patrica?
Aye.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Aye.
And aye. 7-0, motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our list is our board members' comments, and I will start with Ms. Giovanelli.
Of course you will.
Always say that, then I skip, so I am definitely starting with you.
Okay, well, I have several things. So, and through the chair, this is for the superintendent. I think we really need to discuss this whole suspension issue regarding and throughout the district, because I think there's issues that principals, some do it one way, some do it another, and so we've never discussed this as a board. I don't know if we ever will, regarding the protocols of really how this is going to really play out and the processes, because it's, PE and recess, they're wearing masks. I am very concerned over that because it was about indoors, and when we're having football games outside, maskless. So, I don't understand how children, and then when they don't have water, like, I have a real big problem with that, and we have to be the adults. These are children, so somebody has to figure out how children are running with no water, and the parents aren't there to make sure that they have the water every second, and because they've released their child to our care. So we want to be safe in schools, and so let's have water for our children, and making sure that we're not making them run with masks where they can't breathe. The ventilation is a whole issue that I don't believe we're addressing. I'm seeing the school buses with all the windows closed, and that's part of the mitigation. We want to put the emphasis on masks, but what about ventilation? I've read numerous articles, and ventilation is probably one of the main priorities in mitigating COVID. So, and we're not, one thing for mitigating COVID is not the end-all be-all and resolves COVID elimination, obviously, because we're 18 months into this and we still have COVID. So, and people have been wearing masks and 6 feet distance, and, I think we're going to be doing this for a very long time, and I don't want to be in this place next year and dealing with masks. We need to be proactive instead of reactive, and I'm sorry, but we just don't do that on this board. Mask exemption issues, I having a really hard time with that one, because when that is again the well-being and the safety of our children, and the children that need it mostly, that exemption needs to be. I don't understand what is going on in the medical industry these days. They're all experts in everything, apparently. So I just question that as well. And so I would like staff, or through the superintendent, just see what's going on with mask issues and who actually is the one that approves that. Why wouldn't the doctor's mask exemption be sufficient? I don't know when we became the authority of that as well. One of my concerns is is the policy. We didn't discuss the policy changes for coming in and out of the building and for the meetings. And part of it, I'll be honest with you, I'm very supportive of the wanding and searching because there's been questions in the past. This has nothing to do with present, but in the past, we have had issues with people coming to board meetings and and with threats. So I apologize for the inconvenience of that, but it's really for the safety, honestly, of everyone. And I would like to see it throughout the district, including.
You're out of order, please.
Can I please
Ms.
finish?
Newland.
I don't know who spoke, but you can talk to me later. I'd love to talk to you.
Mr. Newland.
So I think that, that people have to understand that there are issues and things aren't safe. And we did have a superintendent several years ago that was killed at work. So it's a problem, and it can be. And so I support that, and I apologize for the searching and so forth, but, it's important. So, but.
Okay,
Mr. Newland.
I'm sorry, Ms. Giovanelli.
Please.
We cannot, can you please?
Please let me
not
talk.
speak when there's a person speaking.
I mean, if you want to talk to me, I will be glad to speak with you. I'll give you my number.
Yeah, I would not go.
That's okay. Please, I will give him my number. So back to the water issue. This board didn't discuss these protocols. At least I'm not aware of the conversations. So I want to be real clear with that. So regarding the water, can I ask why they can't bring water in?
Specifically water into the boardroom?
Yeah.
We can certainly review any of our policies related to those pieces.
And I would just like to clarify a couple of things. At the last board meeting, the board actually approved the implementation of safety measures to include bag searches and wanding. This is based on a policy that we have, not 1.11, but 4.09, which discusses threats of violence. In addition, there's board policy 2.03, which discusses disorder and trespass. These changes were necessitated because there were some indication of threats, and there were some safety concerns with regards to board members, as well as safety concerns with regards to the public. In addition, there are Florida statutes that specifically address certain things that was incorporated into the change. It's not a policy change, it's an implementation of safety procedures that the board has approved.
So, but that doesn't answer my question regarding the no water.
So the implementation of those safety measures indicated that no food or drinks could be brought in, but we could discuss water.
Because I'll be honest with you, if we don't allow the water, I'm going to make a motion tonight for us to supply the water inside the room. And so, I mean, that's going to be our options, because I can't sit here without having something to drink, and I don't feel like that's the right thing to do. And I mean, these meetings are long, and we have to figure something out. So I'm going to make this statement now that at our next meeting, if the water situation isn't resolved as far as allowing in, and if it's because of security measures like in the airport, then I am going to make a motion at our next meeting, and I'm letting the board know that I will be making a motion to have water in here supplied for the public, period. And it'll just be in the back room or in somewhere we'll have it where they can have water. And that'll eliminate that issue, because I think that's just the right thing to do. So I'll let the staff and the superintendent figure that part out, and then y'all can let me know what I need to do. I also want to ask the superintendent through the chair regarding having a survey to all parents regarding masking. I think we never involved our stakeholders in this, and I think that just, that would be really important just to have the information there, because I support parental rights, and I think that I also support the law that the judge handed down this morning. So we have to go through the process, and I believe in that. But I mean, I think we should have a survey that goes out to parents regarding, to mask or not to mask, because that seems to be, we have conflicting information. We have doctors that are gynecologists, and they're saying masks are important. So, I mean, I don't know what they want us to mask, but I think it's kind of important to figure that out. I mean,
Can we
and
please-
parents need to be the one to do that, and I think a survey would be important. And then lastly, I just want to, say I'm sorry to both sides of this, masking or not to mask. And sorry to teachers and staff that are opposed to it or supportive. It's a difficult situation, and it's difficult times, and it's something new, and I, humbly respect everyone's opinion, and I'm here to hear it. And 30 days won't be here soon enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giovanelli. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank all of the people who came to speak tonight to share their information with us. I am concerned about the mask implementation and enforcement. I don't think anyone should be punished if their parents have told them not to wear a mask. And I am very much an advocate for wellness and health, and I think that water is imperative for students. And I did ask the question prior to this about the kids getting the water from the fountains and making sure that if they came without a bottle, we provided it for them. And I would appreciate, Mr. Bruno and Superintendent Savage, a review of the policy that prevents people from bringing water to the boardroom or being supplied with it when they get here. I've been a long-time advocate of comprehensive health education. Recently, we have had multiple mandates from the state about teaching different pieces, mental health, substance abuse prevention, and all of that. So I want to thank the parent who stood up and said, are we teaching that? Are we teaching kids, the things that they need to know about their bodies to keep them safe as a mitigation, as a prevention to getting sick? And we have a lot of kids with comorbidities because they're not healthy, and we really do have a responsibility to include that, and we can deliver that curriculum, which exists for probably over 30 years in the Florida curriculum, through our reading and our intensive reading classes, because it is of interest to the kids. It'll hold their attention, and we can implement our reading standards that way. And that was a suggestion from our subject area teacher in the health education field. At this time, I'd like to recognize Jarrett Eady, our Director of Diversion and Inclusion, and an alumnus of Fort Myers High School and Florida State University, who has been selected for his accomplishments and involvement in Lee County as one of Gulf Shore Life's 40 under 40. He has served as the chairman of the Fort Myers Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board, the Alliance of the Arts, Board of Directors, WGCU Public Media's Content Advisory Committee, and chairman of the Southwest Florida Alpha Educational and Leadership Foundation, and many other things, former president of the Dunbar Festival Community. He is a certified diversity professional. He works to support collective impact initiatives in Southwest Florida by fostering environments that nurture trust, commitment, mutual respect, and a reduction of community and organizational silos. And I'm just very proud to recognize him for that accomplishment, both in and out of his job with the district. At this time, I would also like to remember Anthony Thomas Jr., local community activist who was a frequent attendee of Lee County School Board meetings and other local government meetings. He had a presence. He was passionate, principled, and politically astute. He grew up in Michigan Court, at the time a tough, high-crime Fort Myers public housing complex. He survived tragedy and was drawn to activism. He studied local politics, and he emulated and often quoted Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and of course, his favorite Martin Luther King Jr. A Fort Myers High School graduate, he effectively communicated with, challenged, and supported many community leaders and elected officials, including most of us. Anthony advocated for a better life for people in this area. He attended presidential inaugurations and provided local youth the opportunity to accompany him. He lost his battle with cancer in August. He made a difference and left his mark. He will be missed. I want to offer best wishes to those employees taking new positions. And finally, I want to give continued thanks to our amazing employees who continue to keep this district moving forward as we strive to achieve our vision and mission. These are the best of times and the worst of times. And a special thanks to our security staff and our deputies for always being here for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Patrica?
Unfortunately, I have a report to give because we didn't have a briefing. So if I could direct some comments to Dr. Savage, through the chair. Dr. Savage, I would ask for more transparency at the table so that your public comments match up more closely with the comments that are made in private. And I would urge you to increase your circle of influence in decision-making. You do have discretion to make decisions without consulting staff, but I have observed a troubling pattern of reliance on an increasingly small inner circle of advisors. Teams do work best when input is sought, respected, valued, and listened to. You inherit an incredibly strong team, too many of whom have left. But in order to avoid further bleeding of talent, I urge you to expand your circle of influence, allow others to speak in those larger circles, seek consensus, and move forward. If I may thank Attorney Dupree-Bruno, through the chair, for your response to the DOE letter. I personally, in my opinion, would have liked to have seen a little bit more detail regarding separation of powers and how our policy and guidelines are narrowly tailored, but it was certainly a fine letter. I want to report to the board that I worked in the COVID command center, and I am completely incapable of doing what they do. I took one call, maybe I took 3 calls, but one call from a mom with 4 kids, and one of her children got sick on a Sunday, and so all of her kids were quarantined until the following Tuesday when the other 3 got sick. And so then they all had to be quarantined again while they went through the COVID process. The woman was incredibly patient with me while I took her information and helped her fill out the COVID incident reports. But I will say that as soon as I hung up the phone, the nurses in the room called up those forms and corrected all the mistakes I made, because I did make a lot of mistakes. So, I really just want to talk about our staff and the understanding that there is a disconnect here. We are hearing from the public, and we are hearing about the complaints from the public. And they are numerous, and they are justified, and they are legitimate, while at the same time, our staff is working incredibly hard behind the scenes to make those complaints go away and do everything humanly possible to make this a meaningful, smooth school year for our kids and for our families. So I just want you to know I understand the disconnect, and I get it from the parent side, and I get it. I don't necessarily get it from the board side because I'm not in the schools every day, but I do know how hard you're working, and it is really frustrating for me to have to say I don't know how many staff members are quarantined, but at the same time I understand you're working really, really hard to find a way to gather that data and provide it to us as soon as possible and in as transparent a way as possible. So I apologize if there's a disconnect. I apologize if we sit here and have conversations and ask for things that you just can't give us right now. But understand that we're sort of conduits of the public, and that's why we give you what we give you. To Dr. Savage, a little bit concerned about masking at indoor events that are conducted off property. I'm not seeing that occur in the events that I have attended. I want to congratulate Dwayne Alton. Congratulations, I'm really, really happy for you. You're a chief. I won't call you chief the way I call Chief Newland chief, but you are a chief. And you get, as chief, you get my first complaint. As a parent, I've already talked to Dr. Carlin about this. I receive text messages through Focus, I think, through Focus, telling me that my kid is quarantined, for example, or that my child has a specified period of time to hand in all assignments before the interim grades are due, after that point they'll receive zeros, right? Like, I've received these notifications, but I have 4 kids in 3 different schools, and I have no idea which kid it's talking about. So if, this is a feedback that I've heard from other people in the community. So if there is a way for me to figure out which teacher is sending me that, for which kid, that would be super helpful. Dr. Savage, masks in the boardroom. I raised this with you and I raised this with Attorney Dupree Bruno. I did ask last Monday during our special meeting whether masks would be required in all district buildings to include the boardroom, and I was told yes. I'm not clear on why we're not requiring that. We do require it for groups who are renting our facilities, but not for those in attendance at this board function. Consistency, I think, would be really, really helpful. 3 more things. FSBA Friday Live. I don't know if you all had an opportunity to watch it or listen to it. It's available on the FSBA Vimeo channel. We had a panel of experts who provided guidance on how to safely and legally control board meetings, all of which we are doing in a legal way. And in some instances, we're doing far better than other districts across the state. Again, all within the confines of the law. It was...
Excuse me, you're out of order.
It's interesting to
This is
hear
your
from
first warning.
my colleagues across the state. Ms. Fisher, I had 2021 40 Under 40 Gulf Shore Magazine on my list. Jared Eady, I texted him immediately upon finding out. Really, really happy for him. I just think that's great. And finally, Mike Amabile has been nominated as one of the Estero Forever Foundation 25 people of greatest influence in Estero. So anyone who's listening, if you live in Estero, you have to live in Estero to vote. If you live in Estero, please vote for Mike. There's a ton of really good, really influential people in our community on that list to be voted on, but Mike is the only one associated with our schools, so go Lee County Schools and go Mike Amabile. He has my vote. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Wasn't sure if you were coming to me
I was
next.
thinking about it.
I know. Thank you. I feel like I really need to say this before I begin my comments. We, as a governance team, are all adults. Each of us have the opportunity to have one-on-one meetings with the superintendent. And coming from previously a corporate VP position, I don't think I would ever dress down in public one of my employees. It's my own personal opinion. I feel that we have the opportunity to speak to anyone and let them know, perhaps you should do this or perhaps you should do that. I personally don't approve that this is the place or the time to reprimand an adult. So anyway, and you guys, please. A couple of things. Advisory boards are getting geared up, and I think we have dates, and some of them are starting very soon, am I correct? And in case you're not aware, advisory boards, I think we have like 7 or so of them with different topics, and many of our community members make up the advisory boards to advise us on things. And I would suggest they're always taped. They are out there on the website to watch. And if you're interested in a particular topic or subject, then make sure you tune in and watch some of the advisory boards. Send us some comments back or whatever. And I believe they are they open for the public?
Yeah, Yes.
Okay, so they are open for the public, and a lot of them we're going to do either digital or a blend of the digital this year, so it makes it easier for you to follow and see what some of the comments and thoughts are. And on our agenda tonight, we approved the new members of the advisory board. So if you were approved tonight and you're out there in, digital land, then welcome. And I look forward to working with you on the committee. I'm liaison, and I'm sure all the rest of us do as well. Regarding the wanding and the water, I too, I agree with Ms. Giovanelli that we should somehow be able to provide water. And let me just say something on the wanding and the security. When you have been threatened, you kind of look at it a different way, and not asking for pity or whatever, but it has and it does happen. As I look around the room, I would not be able to say this person over here, this person over here looks like. It's not even that easy, and I'm sure the security people can tell you that as well. And with the highly volatile situations, and some people get very, very, very upset. And we just never know. You really don't. And like was mentioned, we had a superintendent that lost his life at the district office. And you just don't know what pushes one person one way or the other. We have to be just aware and careful. And I've said before, I really wish that we had not the ones, but the, what do you call them? The walk-through, the metal detector things at schools. I have been an advocate for that. Just walk through the door, go through the metal detector, and it's all done. But anyway, that's a whole other subject. I hope that we can find some way to provide some water or whatever. And that's what I have to say on that. Remember the term mitigation. And mitigation is defined as finding ways to reduce, make less severe or less painful a situation. And I will continue to say this as I did last time. We are, in my mind, I am for mitigating and making less painful a very terrible health situation. We can all agree that there's a problem. There is a health situation. There are people sick. There are people dying. And whether you agree with me or not, it's happening. But when we're talking about mitigating, I feel where we got derailed was not saying mitigation as a process. And some people have taken that we're saying just masks will end all, cure all, and that is not the case. Mitigation means everything from testing and cleaning and following up and, all of the things that go along with this dreaded disease. One of those, there may be 5 or 6 things, and you take one of them and that's your thing that you deal with, but there are other mitigations that we have to deal with. I think, and I have said since I started on this board, communication is one of our issues. And I don't think that we have solved that. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, how you put the words. Some of my coworkers have said how we talk to people, and I don't think we have that down pat. I don't think we have it down pat as to how we explain and soften things and make you feel, not just lip service, that we are listening to you and that you are listening to us and all of the other sides of it. So we have a lot of work to do as a school district, as a county, as a country, as a world. we have to learn how to communicate with each other. And we have to learn certain principles that, starting off saying, you're ugly is not going to get my attention to talk to you. So we have to find a way to start that conversation and continue it to find together a mitigation process that will help us all solve this issue. I do want to thank you, Ms. Fisher, for mentioning Anthony Thomas. He was a very colorful figure, and I will never forget. I did go and visit him before he passed away, and we talked, and then 2 days later he called me. And he's as sick as he was still strategizing politics in Lee County and telling me what I should and shouldn't do. So I think it was his way of saying, I may be losing this battle, but I will go out strong. And he was solving the problems of the county until the last day. I also want to take a minute to recognize in the East Zone, we had one of our schools that was hit in the last 3 weeks with 2 deaths, the deaths of 2 teachers, and both in the same school, and both in the 5th grade, and a Harns Marsh Elementary School. And I'm not saying anything about how they died. That's not what's important. We lost 2 teachers. Because I don't want to say that, because I don't want to make a point and go back into ripping the Band-Aid off. It's not about that. It's that we lost 2 individuals, 5th grade teachers for our students. So I asked them to give me some information, and I want to read just quickly. Virginia Moore, Harns Marsh Elementary, is saddened by the sudden loss of one of our beloved teachers on Friday, September 3rd, 2021. Virginia Moore, a 5th grade teacher, has been employed in the district for many years, working at Lehigh Elementary as well. She had many friends throughout the district. Her family has asked that we share her service information. And I will, if you are interested or know her, you can go on to the Harns Marsh Elementary site and you will see the service will be this Saturday. And also Mr. James Lucius, who was from a 5th grade science teacher at the same school. Mr. James Lucius passed away on Thursday, August 19th. He put up a good fight but lost his battle with cancer. He truly loved being a teacher. He had 15 years of service in the school district of Lee County and taught at several schools, including Lexington Middle, Lehigh Acres Middle, Orangewood Elementary, G. Weaver Hips Elementary, and Harns Marsh Elementary. His passion continued to shine through, and not even this battle could stop him from doing what he loved to do each day. He was so looking forward to coming back this year and teaching in person. Unfortunately, that was cut short even before it started. In the midst of all the whatever, however you feel about me or the people up here or next to you or down the hall, there are still lives and people and feelings that make up the Lee County School District. And I just hope that we stop to think about people. Think about these students at Harns Marsh Elementary in 5th grade that lost 2 of their teachers. They need our support. They need us to tell them that we're behind them. So that's my comments for tonight, and I hope you find some happiness and peace and smile about something this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kittens. Ms. Vaughn?
Thank you. I want to echo what a couple board members have said about our new protocols about coming into this room. I very much support them. I know it's an inconvenience, but it really is a very important safety measure. I'm not going to repeat what my fellow board members have said on circumstances and why, but I do want to remind one of the speakers that besides going to concerts, sporting events, and the like, if you've gone to the courthouse, you will be searched, or you will actually have to go through metal detectors. If you're going to fly, if you're going to the airport, you're going to go through TSA. So there are other government agencies which enforce it, and in all cases might be an inconvenience, but it's for the safety of all. And so I'm very happy that we have people here to help us with safety issues, and that at the various venues and airports, and when I've had to go to the courthouse in my role as a guardian ad litem, the same thing. I also had an opportunity just recently to be in the COVID command center, and I actually didn't get to answer any calls. It was the time of the afternoon that it was kind of quiet, and the person that usually, they were short-handed, but they were managing quite well. But I listened to the calls, and I got to look at the big computer screen and take a look. It is a very, very complicated endeavor, and I'm happy that we have the people that are working there, because they're the ones that are keeping track of all these things, and it's very difficult because our Department of Health here in Lee County is so understaffed and so overwhelmed that unfortunately data is sometimes a huge lag. So I know for the parents out there that I have grandchildren, and so my daughter goes through this, but I haven't had to do it personally, and I know that it's a really frustrating endeavor, but again, we are doing the best that we can to keep up with these things. And you know, with the masks, with all of this, there are going to be mistakes. People, you know, even in the schools. I'm happy to hear that that Dr. Savage is going to get back out to all of the schools to remind them that the mask mandate, and this is from day one, so there's obviously been a misunderstanding. From day one, it was never about masking for recess, PE, and of course at lunch they have to have their mask off. So there are certain times of the day. The last thing I want to do is, I guess it's kind of an acknowledgement, and it's something that I always think of at this time. There's certain events in our lives that we always remember where we were. And yeah, I'm old. And so the first one of those I would categorize as John F. Kennedy's assassination. I was a junior in high school when he was assassinated. And I remember getting off from school. I remember the announcement on the PA system. I was in Algebra 2 class. I remember the name of the teacher, Coach Gibble. I kind of remember even where I was sitting all those years ago. And I remember on our, probably a black and white TV, watching the funeral processions. I was a student. The second one that I'm going to say I remember very, very specifically is the Challenger disaster. This time, again, I was in school, but this time I was a teacher, and I remember the excitement of the Challenger going into space. And I remember when it was announced on our school PA system. This was when I was in Dallas, and the shock that went through all of us. And yes, I also remember Ronald Reagan's very touching and poetic speech after that. The third one is an anniversary that's coming up this weekend, Patriots' Day. This is my acknowledgement. 20 years ago, September 11th, 2001, again, I was a teacher. I was driving to school. I lived only 5 minutes from the school. But I flipped on the radio for those 5 minutes. And there was, instead of the music I was used to listening to, there was a report. And they didn't quite know what was happening, but that a plane had struck one of the Twin Towers. And I have to add that I have some very, very close connections with New York City through my parents and through my grandparents. And my college was very close to the city, and from childhood through adulthood, spent a lot of time in New York. So I felt very close to New York. I learned afterward that one of my college sorority sisters died in that. My very, very dear close friend, I was so worried about her because I knew she worked on Wall Street. And she spent an entire day trying to get back to her home in New Jersey. But the thing I really, really remember is the silence in that classroom. I was teaching a PSAT class, and they were juniors, and we had the TV on, and it was silent. And we saw, I was there as the teacher, that second plane hit. And you'll forgive my being specific, but the only word I heard for the whole period was a child say, "Oh shit." And it was terrible for the rest of the day. I'm curious, how many of you remember where you were? How many of you remember? Yeah, and I just, yeah, I know. I shouldn't have done that because but it's a day really etched in my memory. And I was living in Texas, and I made a special trip when I was visiting family in New Jersey to go down to where the Twin Towers had stood. And so I saw the hole. The deep hole, and the flowers, which were really all over New York, here and there. And I know a lot of people have bad feelings about New York City, but it was uplifting to see. And then many years later, I made a special trip downtown to see what had arisen from those ashes and visited the memorial, which if you've never been there and you go to New York, you must see that. And I know this is real different from what I would normally say here, but I just want to acknowledge what happened 20 years ago, but more so what arose from those ashes, because to me, it represents the best of the American spirit. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Ms. Morgan?
Well, I think I'll leave some of my thoughts for next time. But I do want to ask that, or I guess I want to ask how we are talking to parents about the fact that we are prohibited from providing at-home access to learning. You know, people say we're making these kids go home and we're making them homeschool. It's not like we have a choice. We've been told that we cannot provide the same sort of in-home learning opportunities that we had last year. And I think people need to understand that that is not this school district. That is coming from the state. They've made the decision about what opportunities we can offer students. We're not. We would like to be able to do more for our students, but we are not in a position to do so. So I'm not sure how we get that information out, but I think there is a lot of confusion, assumption that we've made this choice not to provide things for students, and I think we need to get a better message out. So I'm going to stop there, given the lateness of the hour, and I will turn it back to Ms. Jordan, Chair Jordan.
And I just want to say I really thank the staff, thank the district team for everything that they are doing. And I also want to thank my colleagues for jumping in wherever we can jump in, whether it's in the schools or in the COVID command center. I just think that we really do need to participate. And I will be going back out and visiting the schools to make sure that our kids are not having masks when they're out there. So I will begin doing that next week, visiting all the schools again. Also, I wanted to say how proud I am of Jared Eady. He's, to me, is a very special person, and I am very proud of what he does for the Lee County, period, and what he has always done, and as far as the district as well. And then RSM, I did get a return call from them today, and so what they had stated to me was that we went back and forth, but they will be reaching out to one of their counterparts and having another conversation, and then we'll come back because they will have to redo the SOW and revise and retweak because of the fact of how they were being compensated. The last time that they were here, they would not be able to do that for us again. So I asked them to draft up, based on the board's request of me. I've asked them to go ahead and send that to us, resubmit whatever their SOW will be, so that way we can look at that and make a decision. So I am following up on that. I just wanted to give you all an update. So I've been very diligent of contacting them. So that's all that I have to say, and just how much I appreciate everybody. Mr. Pre-Bruno, and thank you too for making sure everything is, both of you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have three topics for tonight. The first thing, I really want to make sure that the public understands, because I've heard this at the last couple of meetings with regards to the search. It is not a search and seizure. It is a search, as well as the bonding and the safety protocols. This does, as I stated earlier, does not come from Board Policy 1.11. It comes from Board Policy 4.09, which specifically states that the School Board of Lee County is committed to a safe and orderly educational environment and authorizes the superintendent and district staff to respond rapidly to any threats, suggestions, or predictions of violence that can occur on any district-owned property, including this boardroom. That is where that authority comes from. We did not create a new policy. It already existed. In addition, Board Policy 2.03 is the policy that discusses bringing firearms on property. This policy already existed. It was not created. It specifically addresses that in Section 5 of that policy, as well as Section 6 of that policy. So I just want to make sure that is clear. The other thing that I wanted to discuss, it is very difficult because we recognize that you have your constitutional First Amendment right to free speech. We also have statutory authority that allows us to control the meeting so that we can actually conduct a meeting. And it is a very fine balancing test. Our intent is not to censure you, but to ensure that we have decorum in the boardroom pursuant to Board Policy 1.11, which really explicitly outlines what can and cannot be done to ensure that the board can conduct their business and do what they need to do. There is one section of the policy that I want to bring to your attention because I'm not sure if you recognize that. We do say no. We do say no personal attacks. However, I do want you to understand, if you have a charge or a complaint, you are entitled to bring it. There is a process to do that. You cannot just go to public comment and levy accusations and charges. There is a process, and that is in Board Policy 1.11, subsection 6. B, you need to submit an affidavit of the charges and request permission to be able to come and discuss whatever those charges are with an individual. So we're not censoring you, we are adhering to our policy. The other thing, thank you, Ms. Patrica, for the recognition with regards to the letter that was drafted. I do have to say that Ryan Hudak played a pivotal role in that over the weekend and assisted in the drafting of that correspondence, as did our superintendent, Dr. Savage, who gave some very poignant pieces of information to add to that letter. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pre-Bruno. Dr. Savage?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things. First, right out of the gate, wanted to just, because it's fresh in my mind, Ms. Morgan, about the information about the parents. I did want to validate that it's true. We really wanted to bring a hybrid learning again this year. That was not permitted through the state models. However, I did want to put a plug in for our new Connect with Lee daytime. We've had the after hours Connect with Lee, which is that after hours tutoring. We did at least try to put in some type of supplemental piece so that during the day for any students who are experiencing disruption, whether it's on, that they're isolated or quarantined, whether they're sick, whether they're being homeschooled, whether they are in any of the other offerings, we now offer that daytime service as well. And so I thought that was just want to make sure I put a plug in for that. And we'll continue to communicate and try to communicate even more so, because those are things that we can do. I wanted to put a specific shout out to Sophia, who's not here with us right now, but she was, as our student representative. It was phenomenal to have children back in here. So much of our work is about our kids, and to hear their voices here at our meetings to kick us off was a wonderful way to start the meeting. Also want to just echo the shout out that we've already had about Mr. Edie and the under 40 for Gulf Shore Business. He is, for anyone who knows Mr. Edie, he is really someone who's influenced a lot here. I mean, just in the time that I've been back in the district, to see the influence he's had on our leadership team is so profound. He may be a young man, but he is wise beyond his years, and he just provides a real historical context. I mean, when I think about the people who you can learn a lot about the history of our community long before he was even alive, he really is so disciplined in studies in that piece, and so he brings such a richness to our leadership team, and I'm so grateful for him as well. I didn't know about Mike Amabile. I just have to say I'm so excited to hear that he's our only school district person in that consideration, because Mike Amabile is another young hero, and he's a real hero to me, just someone who I've seen him interact with children at Estero High, and what a difference he makes. I'll never forget kind of some of the time I got to spend with him on the first day of school. What a profound impact he made on me, just watching the way he interacted with some of his special needs students of special needs in his building, demonstrated that he is just the real deal when it comes to a person who truly cares about all of his children and staff. So just putting a plug in for Mike Amabile in that Estero. I'm sure the other people are deserving too, but please vote for him. I also wanted to just acknowledge the 20th anniversary of the 9/11. I'll be at the downtown event, which works hand in hand with our Southwest Florida Public Service Academy. The master of ceremonies is actually our very own Todd Everly, and I'll be there with him. And just to echo kind of Ms. Vaughn's point, I do recall, and I was a teacher at the time, and I just remember it. I remember exactly where I was through the various different stages as that unfolded that day. And I think that, to me, I hold on to I appreciate kind of the positive watching Americans come together during what was a pretty trying time. I think that there's kind of a signal from the past of something that I didn't really fully understand at the time, and took me a while to understand about terrorism and how divisive ideologies that people would be willing to lay down their life essentially out of a hatred of our way of life here, whether it's democratic society, whether it's whatever they perceived, that United States is symbolically, that this was by killing thousands of people, that somehow that was furthering a cause. I can't begin to understand that mindset. But I think the powerful message that it kind of left with me for many years thereafter, and I think is kind of salient today, is just how ideologies and conflicting viewpoints can be so divisive and can really not allow people to have any kind of understanding of one another. And I think that for me, I've always kind of been a person who believes in trying to find common ground, of trying to see the good in all people and to try to understand each other. And I think that now, during this time of us dealing with a pandemic, and a lot of the different conflicting ideologies and just different facts and different understandings and how we unpack the world around us in so many different ways, I can't help but think about at that time, all the differences we had as Americans and all the issues that we had seemed to kind of melt away in that moment where we came together during a crisis and came together as Americans who felt that our way of life was being threatened, and it was a resurgence in patriotism at that time. I think the sad reflection of where we are today presently is that, the divisiveness that we currently have both in our community as well as all across our country as Americans along a lot of political affiliations is really a sad, disparate picture from where we were then. And in the midst of the fact that we're going through a surge in our community, unlike anything we've had throughout the life of this pandemic, I just want to kind of highlight for everyone here that, I have no problem with our governor, and I understand that some folks have different ideas about that they don't like our governor, they think he's overstepped or anything along those lines. Our governor is our governor, and I respect democracy, and I respect all of that. At the same time, we're going to have differences in policies, whether it's the legislature, whether it's our local policies, we're going to have those differences. And so I constantly really appreciate how we at this group and then throughout all government can have a lot of differences of policy thoughts and what we think is right, whether we believe in big government, small government, and all the different ideological differences we have, but that we don't lose our humanity and our civility and our respect for each other as humans, and that we all have rights to live and to try to find that common ground together. And I just can say, as long as I'm in this role, I will continue to try to find any way I possibly can to forge common ground, even for people who, question me or don't like me, or people who really appreciate me. I'll work just as hard for everyone in between. And I really see that out in our community, people who feel like their voice is not heard, and people who are so validated and feel like, thank God you're doing these right things. I don't listen to one voice over the other. I really don't. I try to respect all of them. And so I think, like, for me right now, I just have a lot of sympathy for what we are going through collectively as a society. And I value all the people on all sides of this and have a sense of sympathy for how you may be feeling right now, whether you're someone who feels like our back is to you right now, that we're not addressing your issues satisfactorily, or whether you're somebody who feels perfectly validated in this moment. And I'll just continue to hold that dissonance in my heart every day as I lead, to try to find a way to keep being a source of healing, and to try to help focus on that piece. To address the mask particular thing, again, as I've stated many times, I am not a big fan of masks. This was the last mitigation effort, and it really was only in response to the law, as well as that we did have that legal change in terms of Judge Cooper's ruling, as well as the fact that our 12 and under children cannot get vaccinated, and our vaccination rate in Lee County is simply not as high as it is in some parts of the country. And it was very evident to us that the level of vaccination, in terms of talking to our medical experts, was a big piece of trying to limit the amount of inundation that occurs in the hospital system. The only other piece to that is just the surge numbers. The surge numbers being quite so high. We had not experienced anything in our hospital system, and we're in communication with them on a very frequent basis. So I look forward to hopefully seeing a dramatic reduction in our surge that allow us to relax these mitigation measures, some of them as soon as we can safely, and then continue to relax. I just want to echo something that was said earlier about the comprehensive plan around this. It's all of these things working in concert that really are the factor. It is not masks. Masks are just one of many, and there's a lot of things that go into about ventilation and all that as well, but the point is all of it has to work together. And so as we see the numbers come down, we are certainly going to be pulling certain mitigation strategies off, but we have to make it responsive to the numbers that we're seeing in our community, and that's our charge right now with all the children and staff that were there trying to protect. So thank you very much for the time today.
Thank you, Dr. Savage. The next scheduled meetings of the board on Monday, September 20th, there will be a board workshop at 1 p.m. On Tuesday, September 21st, there will be a board briefing at 1 p.m., followed by an action meeting at 6 p.m. At this point, having no further business to come before this body and see no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you and have a safe evening.